Hello, nerds! Are you tired of, trying to keep up with every piece of pop culture nerdy news that drops every day? Well, good, because that's why I'm here, is I'm doing it for, well, okay, maybe not every nerdy piece, but the ones that are really worth talking about, that's what we're here to talk about. This is the week in Nerdom. Grab your dubby, kick back and relax. Words are hard. And, let's talk about some pop culture nerdy news. Listening to music is kind of like a character build in an RPG. Some people go for the min-maxed DPS build, which is, I would say, the death metal listeners, while others do like the well-rounded tank character build, which is kind of the metalcore listeners. And then you have the people who listen to country music exclusively, put all of their points into strength and nothing into intelligence, and those are the people, I don't know, you like to keep them around as fodder, right? This week's music, follow-up and corrections don't really exist. We have nothing to follow up on, nothing to correct. Apparently, I got it all right the first time, so let's just move on, shall we? So let's talk now about some new muse. We have New York hardcore crossover thrash old-timers, Murphy's Law, are back with their very first track in 24 years. This makes me feel old. Name of the track is Go Jimmy Go. It is available on all streaming platforms currently, and it's very likely to end up on whatever record they're currently working on, which will be the follow-up to 2001's Party Crasher. Kind of makes you miss the days when punk was more about smashing stuff and less about needing a comeback narrative, right? Next up, we have Max Cavalera's current new project, Cavalera, not to be confused with his previous new project, Cavalera Conspiracy. The current new project has released a new song in collaboration with Capcom's Street Fighter VI. It wasn't good enough last week when we had a popular metal vocalist doing a feature on a song to promote a video game. This week we have a popular metal, well, popular being kind of loose by comparison, a popular metal band doing a song themselves in order to promote a video game. This one is titled Pile Driver, once again from the band Cavalera, and it sounds exactly like a song written by Max Cavalera. I don't know what you expect out of this. Moving on to genre that we don't cover a lot on here, though I'm trying to branch out a little bit more because I do listen to other music besides just metal and the occasional rap stuff that we cover. This one is a country tune. Speaking of bands who can't help but sound like themselves, Zac Brown Band has dropped 2 new singles. First one being a song called Hard Run featuring Marcus King. Second one being a song called The Sum featuring the Lumineers. Both are teasing the new record from Zac Brown called Love and Fear, which is dropping December 5th. It's more of that southern rock vibe with a little side of soul. Kind of like if your barbecue got just a little bit too introspective. And then rounding out the new music section, for anyone who still has their studded belt from 2004, I have good news. Story of the Year is back. They're putting out a new record. That's right, those guys, the emo, screamo, whatever the hell you want to call Story of the Year. The dudes from the early aughts who were actually part of that subgenre that were mostly listenable, honestly, putting out a new record. Just announced it is called Arson, A-R-S-O-N, which means all rage, still only numb, because of course it does. Hitting February 13th is when this record drops. It is going to be out on Sharp Tone Records. The lead single is obviously out now. That's why we're talking about it in new music and not news for upcoming music. It's all guitar riffs, and there's a breakdown in there and a lot of introspection and maybe a little bit of emotion that's probably not necessarily called for in this instance, but you know, it's the good stuff. It is actually pretty solid, I'm not gonna lie, especially if you are still chasing that Page Avenue high. Next up is something of a revival for the tours and festivals section, because this section has been kind of neglected the last couple of months. But first up is a transition piece, if you will, because this is the announcement of a new record from Puscifer. That's right, Maynard James Keenan's other side project. This is the project that features Matt Mitchell and Karina Round. They just dropped their first album. It is out now, or are dropping their first album in 5 years, sorry. The name of the record is going to be Normal Isn't. It is coming out in February, so like I said, upcoming. My apologies for the confusion. February 6th to be specific. It's got, some interesting gothy elements, which is kind of what you come to expect out of Puscifer, but also just kind of also joke music, if I'm remembering their back catalog. It's been a while since I listened, so please bear with me. Definitely has darker electronics, which is, par for the course here as well, featuring guest spots from the likes of Tony Levin and Danny Carey. And they're also touring, which is why we're now in the touring section. They're also touring North America beginning March 20th in Vegas, runs through May 14th in Los Angeles. Tickets will drop soon. They are not currently available. So if you are into weird, aggressive vibes, then this is probably going to be right up your alley. Next up is actually a bit of a double announcement as far as festivals are concerned. The very creatively named Sick New World has grown, it would seem, grown enough in popularity and just general awareness of the festival. So now there's going to be two. We have official word. There's going to be a Sick New World in Texas this year. So there's the two versions. The first one is going to be the Vegas one, which happens, this is their third year running now, I believe, System of a Down and Korn are going to be headlining. The show will be April 25th of 2026. It'll be that whole weekend, which usually it takes 3 days, I think it was previous years. It's going to be on the Las Vegas Festival grounds. It's also going to feature the likes of Bring Me the Horizon, Danny Elfman, Acid Bath, and just a gigantic list of performers, as is the usual for this festival. But then we also have the Texas edition. So I just lost my place in the notes. Big new metal revival. But there's an inaugural Texas. There we go. Inaugural Texas edition, headlined also by System of a Down, and this time Deftones is going to be the second headliner. It's going to be October 24th of 2026, so approximately a year from now. It is taking place at the Texas Motor Speedway, also featuring Slayer performing Rain in Blood in its entirety, Evanescence, Prodigy, Marilyn Manson, Knocked Loose, AFI, Ministry, Mastodon, Power Trip, and ton more. These are definitely more than just new metal vibes like we've kind of previously gotten in years past, but definitely the 2000s called and said that we're cramping their style with this festival. Staying in the vein of festivals, we have another one called the notes are a thing for a reason. There it is. The Above Ground 4 Charity Festival in Los Angeles. Recently announced Corey Taylor, Billy Idol, and DMC, as in the DMC from Run DMC, all have been announced. There's a number of others. You can find the link in the description if you really want to go check this one out. It is happening in LA, October 26th at the Fonda Theater in Hollywood. It is a charity event for mental health awareness and unaliving one's self-prevention. It is honoring the New York Dolls and the Cars. That is a mouthful. New York Dolls and the Cars albums with a stacked lineup, also featuring Rick Springfield, Sully Erna, and quite a bit more. To their credit, this is the rescheduled date because they were originally supposed to happen while the Los Angeles wildfires were happening, which you know, that's probably not a good time to do this since they had to raise money for the wildfires. So now we're raising money for mental health awareness. And then speaking of previous decades calling and wanting their music back, we have a very obscure band from the 90s called Shudder to Think. How would I describe Shudder to Think? It's post-rock and they're very avant-garde, but somehow they got a record label deal in the 90s and were played on the radio, but they make music that honestly sounds like if Dillinger Escape Plan made alt-rock instead of metal. That's kind of what these guys sound like. Anyway, they are touring the US for the first time in 17 years. This tour starts October 23rd in Boston, ends November 11th in LA. That's happening right now. This is not 2026, it's 2025. They are celebrating 30th anniversary of their record, Pony Express. And it's really sweet if you're really, really into pop that sounds like it came from another dimension. And then, to round out the tours and festivals section, for those people who like their music with the side of banjo, we got the lineup for the Railbird Fest, which is happening June of 2026. Tyler Childers with the Lumineers, which sounds like a pretty interesting combination, not gonna lie. They are going to be headlining. We also have other acts, Zach Top, Camp, Mount Joy, Sam Barber, and a bunch more across 3 stages. Again, June 6th and 7th are the dates for this. 30 plus acts on 3 stages. Tickets go on sale today as I'm filming, so probably, hopefully yesterday as you're watching. There's definitely a lot of extra stuff if you want to do more than just see the bands. There's lots of premium perks because obviously it's festival in modern day, and that is the way the music industry works. So if you really want a VIP package, you want to meet some country music stars, as it were, though I don't know if Railbird does like the stars. Tyler Childers is definitely a star, but in a very different, whatever. I'm rambling. It's cool. Go check it out. Let's move on. Okay, so we're rounding into regular ass news, and we're starting off. We actually have 2 bummers this week. We had 2 deaths. We had 3 deaths for the entire episode last week. 2 of those were in music. We have 2 more passings this week in music. First and foremost, by a long shot, is Sam Rivers, bass player for Limp Bizkit. Bass player, heartbeat, just driving force in the sound of those nu metal grooves that honestly is one of the big reasons why I even got into music. The man has passed away at the age of 48. As of writing the script for this episode, not much had been said as far as the cause of his passing, though I am now seeing preliminary reports saying that it had to do with complications from his liver transplant, which happened in 2017. This is what happens when you party too much, kids. If you blow out your liver from too much alcohol, it kind of comes around to bite you in the ass. Not to make light of Sam's passing, because this is super heavy for me. As I previously stated, this man is the reason why, this band that he was in is a part of the reason why I even wanted to make music to begin with as a kid. But also, very specifically, Sam is the reason I picked up a bass. Bass is my musical instrument of choice, and it is largely due to Sam Rivers. Fred on the band's social medias, excuse me, has dropped I believe there might have been a video. Either way, there's a very emotional post about his history with Sam, how they met back in Jacksonville, Florida, and created the band of Limp Bizkit together, he and John, and then how they kind of added Wes and Lethal into the mix, and just like, it's gut-wrenching. Sam is definitely a massive loss, not only to the Limp Bizkit community, but also to the general music community at large. He was incredible. He was an epic musician, and just, like I said, gut-wrenching. So we are going to take a minute to remember Sam Rivers, bass player from Limp Bizkit. And then we have another passing. So we're going to get the really heavy stuff out of the way at the front of the new music, or the regular-ass news section. But Ace Frehley, Kiss, the starman from Kiss himself, has passed at the age of 74. This one was a known cause. He had a brain bleed, which happened from a studio fall as he was in the studio making music, presumably. In the studio, he fell, hit his head, and then kind of went. The family has announced that it was peacefully. He is in New Jersey, or he was in New Jersey with his family when he passed. He is a Hall of Fame musician. He has a Grammy nomination to his name. Literal rock legend. Now passed away. So it's kind of a freak accident, and it really sucks because it wasn't old age, which means we very potentially could have gotten some really cool stuff out of Ace. He's been actively releasing music for the last while, and for a long while. So again, we're going to take a moment and remember Ace Frehley. Okay, so we're going to bring things up from depressing and sad to weird and potentially awesome. We have DJ Sid Wilson. That's right, Slipknot's DJ has started his own record label, and the first artist he's putting out is an interesting one. The name of the record label is Vomit Face Records. It is for specific hip-hop artists like Lil Bushwick. If you don't know who Lil Bushwick is, you probably know Bushwick Bill. If you don't know that name, I know you know at least one of his songs because it was in Office Space. And if you've never seen Office Space, what the hell are you doing watching a nerdy news show? Damn, it feels good to be a gangster. Bushwick Bill was one of the dudes that performed that song. He also, forever ago, was really close with Dr. Dre and Ice T. No, good Lord, why am I? Eazy-E, there we go. Wow, I was not remembering my rappers' names appropriately. Eazy-E, when Dre and Eazy were close, Bushwick Bill was part of that as well. Bushwick, I think, stuck with Eazy, and I'm totally whatever. Irrelevant, I think, to the larger conversation is that Lil Bushwick is his son, and he is still alive as Bushwick Bill passed a few years ago, but apparently Sid Wilson and Bushwick Bill had an agreement that they were going to do a music project together. Apparently that has evolved into a record label called Vomit Face Records. Again, Lil Bushwick, Rome Fortune is on here as well. And they dropped a track called Take It Back, which features unused vocals from Bushwick Bill. It is co-produced, bringing this one all the way back around, with DJ freaking Lethal. The record of Lil Bushwick's is going to be out on Halloween. This is a lot more of blurring of the lines between metal and hip-hop, and some legacy stuff thrown in there. This is just kind of cool all around. Let's keep going. Final piece of regular ass news for this week is the Country Music Hall of Fame has just inducted June Carter Cash, Kenny Chesney, and Tony Brown. I know I should know who Tony Brown is, but offhand I can't think of why I know who Tony Brown is. But it happened on October 20th. It's just really cool. Casey Musgraves, Eric Church, George Strait, and a bunch more did tributes to these artists. And I mean, this is just good thing to know, I guess. Let's keep going. That puts us into our suggestion for the week. If you want a very perfect snapshot of the 90s, the metal and industrial music, like that kind of 90s, the 90s that I grew up in, then you can go listen to the Crow soundtrack, the original Crow soundtrack. It features tracks from The Cure, their Burn, that is one of their biggest singles ever. You also have Nine Inch Nails' Dead Souls, Stone Temple Pilots' Big Empty, and Helmet's Milquetoast. It is legitimately a masterpiece of an album, let alone a soundtrack to legitimately a masterpiece of a movie. It is without question one of the greatest soundtracks ever assembled in the history of cinema. It is thematically appropriate for the time of year in which we are, which is the Halloween time right before the off season, and it is your suggestion for the week. So here's a thought. So I put this one together. Gaming is kind of like dating. You get really excited by the trailers with all the flashiness and then the promises of deep experience. Then you actually spend time with it and you realize it's just a buggy mess that is really not that engaging and is constantly trying to get you to spend a whole bunch of money on useless cosmetics. Let's talk gaming news. Follow-ups and corrections for gaming. It would appear that the battle between Call of Duty and Battlefield, no pun intended necessarily, is largely unto-do anymore. Because after we talked about the $300 million loss last week, this week we have a follow-up on, say, related piece, which is why it's in follow-ups. Battlefield 6 literally just curb-stomped the expectations. It sold over, let me make sure this number's correct, 7 million copies in the first 3 days after launch, which was October 10th, making it the fastest launching game in series history. That right there is more than Battlefield 2042 sold in its entire first week. It has 172 million matches played so far, 15 million streaming hours, and EA's Byron Bede and Vince Vampella are very much happy and thanking the players. But yeah, so take that, Call of Duty. You wish your yearly reskin hit this hard. Also of note here, speaking of follow-ups, this is launching right after the news that broke, I think this was 2 weeks ago, it might have been 3 weeks ago, don't hold me to that, when EA got scooped up by the Saudi investors for a reported $55 billion because nothing says fun shooter like private equity drama. Season 1 hits October 28th officially, so get ready for more microtransactions. I don't know if we should be excited about that, actually. Then following up on Dying Light the Beast, the zombie hackfest game that features Kyle Crane back from the dead-ish, a little bit, sort of. They just rolled out a new release map, a road map, if you will, that features legend levels, nightmare mode, and a Call of the Beast community event. 11 weeks, 22 challenges, chop off 30 million limbs for a lumberjack car skin, whatever the hell that means. And on top of all of that, it's free. So if you're into this game, then this is absolutely 100% making replay value goes through the roof. That's what we got for follow-ups. New trailers this week don't really exist. Apparently they're still stuck in the rendering queue, so let's move on. We're gonna kick off the regular ass news with a bit of good news in gaming. What do you say? This one is for people who really hate modern launchers and also enjoy their video games DRM free. Konami, who generally is more of a, nah, remakes are better, was just convinced by GOG to release Capcom's, the Resident Evil trilogy. The release dates are 96, 98, and 99. The original 3 Resident Evil games, they are DRM free, and they are on GOG as of November. Oh, yeah, this dropped and we got numbers. Sorry, I'm misinterpreting my notes. This happened last November. We now have the report, the sales report. Capcom thought that the vanilla versions were going to be worthless and especially paling in comparison to the shiny new remakes, and they were wrong because the nostalgia apparently won. We now see that the release is selling like hotcakes and is approximately 94% positive across all 3 of the titles. So, hooray for preservation's sake! Finally, we get some love to those tank controls that totally ruined our childhood. Switching modes to another weird thing that seems unnecessary to announce, but here we go. Apple TV is ditching the Plus. Per executive Eddie Q, everyone just called it Apple TV anyway, so, the Plus is generally assigned to things with a paid upgrade, like the iCloud. So this is just to eliminate any confusion with the hardware. Now called Apple TV 4K is the most recent addition. Service is reportedly doing fine. They have somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 45 million subscribers. And the strikes that delayed the show last year, everything's kind of working itself out. Content is actually kind of peaking over on Apple these days. Like, almost makes me wish I had a subscription to some of that stuff, but I don't know, the 7 C's be calling my name. I don't think this is going to make a major difference in those 40 to 45 million subscribers that they report, but I don't know, it's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for them. And then I'm going to start the next piece with a question. Did you ever wonder why the hell Konami dropped information about Silent Hill 2 remake, the Silent Hill Townfall game, and Silent Hill F all at once? Was that like 2 years ago? Well, recently, a series producer was asked that very question, and his response was, so fans could feel how serious we were about reviving the horror series. Ah yes, the ever classic overwhelm them with information so they can't focus on one singular failure argument. Seemed to work out, which also is spitting in the face of Konami's other strategy over for Metal Gear, which has the upper-ups at Konami asking the audience what the hell they want to see next, like it's a democracy or something. But hey, I guess you can't win them all? And then, considering this was a few days ago as I'm recording this, it probably has blown over for you at this point too, but in case you were curious, did you try to sign on to, I don't know, Fortnite or Venmo or something a few days ago and couldn't? Well, it would seem that you weren't alone. There was a massive Amazon Web Services outage that took out an entire chunk of it. Like, the town where I work, my day job was out. All of the businesses around us were out. Half of the employees didn't have internet at home that day. And it was for, like I said, everything from Fortnite to Snapchat to Venmo. It was all fixed by that evening, but we do have backlogs and a bunch of other things, and now some resulting lawsuits are coming out of this. But it would blame operational gremlins and not hackers, because this was not a hack, according to Amazon Web Services. Though, if you just think of all of those unlooted chests lost to the void, kind of brings a tear to your eye, doesn't it? And then free-to-play Marvel hero shooter, Marvel Rivals, has announced it's getting its first PvE mode. It's getting a zombie mode. It's set to release tomorrow as I'm filming, so again, hopefully today as you're watching. If you are a Rivals player, you get custom traits, Halloween skins, and it's running until November 20th. So now we can finally see in all of its glory what it actually looks like when the Hulk punches a zombie through the face. And then our final piece of regular-ass news for gaming and tech this week, Microsoft is officially working on a next-gen console. in a move that, honestly, considering how the rumor mill has been going, surprised many people. We have Xbox President Sarah Bond confirmed that the next-gen hardware is actively in development. And what exactly are we expecting to play on said next-gen console? Well, this one is still technically rumor, but we're going to talk about it here since it's directly related. Apparently, there is a free-to-play Halo game that is being worked on. That is a live service game. Will be multiplayer focused, obviously, much like Infinite, I'm sure. But the reports around this one say that it is going to be akin to Fortnite, where they're going to treat it more as a platform and less like a game unto itself, meaning they're going to have other developers developing inside of this new ecosystem that they've created, because trying to copy Fortnite has worked out so well for other developers in the past. And then that rounds us out to our suggestion for the week. With all of this talk about Konami and the remakes and the whatnot and the what have you, we're gonna go to Silent Hill 2. Specifically, the remake is your suggestion this week. The original game was a horror masterpiece. Again, warped many childhoods, mine included. So the remake, being at Bloober did an incredible job with this game, is absolutely worth your time. If you have yet to play it, it is the Halloween season. Go figure out a GameFly situation if they still exist, or, you know, borrow it from a friend if they have a physical copy. This is getting difficult. Either way, Silent Hill 2 Remake is your suggestion for the week.
Subscribe. That is all.
You know, if you think about it, comic books are like the original DLC. Oh, you liked this story? Well, to get the full picture of the entire encompassing event, you're gonna have to buy these other 3 crossover books, this one-shot special that is a limited edition, and an annual that came out 6 months ago that's out of print. But don't worry, it costs right about as much as a modern video game, honestly. Let's talk about comic books and books, shall we? Follow-ups and corrections. Our first follow-up here is to the story that we talked about last week with the Ultimate Universe coming to an end. There has been a little bit more information that has been released. So the Earth 6160 saga, once again, just the TLDR, is wrapping up April 2025, as we learned from New York Comic-Con. It seems a little premature because some of these storylines were actively still moving forward. Spider-Man from Jonathan Hickman is now ending at issue number 24. We have Hill's Black Panther and Momoko's X-Men. We're already heading towards their finale, so that one didn't really get cut short. Where did I just leave off? They're tied to the Maker's Escape. We have Wolverine got bumped up to 16 issues, so they stretched that one, but still, it's going to be done by the end. There are Hawkeye and Guardian sequels that were in the works but are no longer happening. We have editor Will Moss has been the one that it has come out, is the one who decided to nix the entire Ultimates universe. He said it was in order to keep the line, quote, pure, and avoiding mainline Marvel's endless drag. So this was a premeditated thing that they actually planned, or started planning, I guess, approximately a year ago. Again, when I originally read this last week when we were doing research for last week's episode, this kind of felt like it was coming out of the blue. And there were rumors that we didn't report on because I felt like they were largely unfounded, but there were definitely rumors that the reason why they were ending the Ultimates universe so soon was because the MCU, Marvel on the big screen, wanted some of the storylines and some of the writers that were involved with this, and they can't do both, apparently, for reasons. So they were killing the Ultimates line in order to try and beef up the MCU. It has come out that that actually is not the case. So I guess kind of sort of refuting rumors that really were baseless to begin with. But yeah, we now know that it was producer, where the hell did it go? Editor, rather, Will Moss. Execs like Dan Buckley call it an experiment with a clean arc, kicking off the climax in Ultimate Endgame #1 this December 31st. So we do still have a little bit of time before it is officially gone. Bittersweet for a lot of people, but it seems like they did get the writers on board eventually, and so everything worked out, and we will get an actual proper ending to all of the arcs that are currently going on in the Ultimates universe. So that's a bit of a weight off my shoulders, I think. That is all we have for follow-up. So trailers this week are Zip, Zilch, and Nada. Let's continue on into regular ass news. We have the end of an era. IDW's TMNT is slamming the door on a major modern era with issue number 12 dropping again today as I'm filming, yesterday as you're watching, hopefully. Jason Aaron and I'm totally not going to say his last name right, and I apologize. Juan Ferreira? Their 12-issue run together wraps up with number 12, with the Turtles battling to clear murder raps, which is a pretty crazy thing. But this is the end of their run. We have covers from Jorge Fornes, Kevin Eastman himself, and more. One of the franchise's top arcs. This is absolutely one of the best-selling arcs in the franchise history, though it's not completely ending the story there. This line is going to continue with issue number 13. The new writing team, writer-artist team, is Luen Yang and Kevin Williams II. They are going to be battling a new villain named Ujigami, terrorizing the Splinter Clan, as they are now referred, with Splinter passing away throughout the course of the previous arc. Spoilers, I guess, if you haven't read it, sorry. But they have over 100K sold, which is pretty big numbers considering it's not one of the big two, and it's one of the oldest IPs in modern comics, so that's just kind of crazy. Yang is totally geeking out with his 80s cartoon roots and the Laird ties, so Calabunga to the old and a hello to the harrowingly new stuff. Yeah, let's just keep going. And then we have a new book from Tony Moore, who is OG Walking Dead artist. He's saddling up for a Western horror called Fire in the Hole. It's part of Outlaw Showdown #1. It's coming out on Oni Press. Again, we're dipping more into the indie developers. We're not talking video games. Indie publishers. The EC Comics imprint for Oni Press. It is out today as I'm filming, so yesterday as you're watching, and it's a one-shot anthology with John Acrudi, Christopher Cantwell, and Nocenti, and other artists like Sebastian Cabral, plus Kurtzman Davis reprint. That is a lot of talent on this book. Moore's tale in this anthology focuses on betrayal, death, and eyeball-scorching dismemberment. Warning, this is definitely not for the faint of stomach. Think pulpy EC gore meets The Dusty Trails, which is ideal if zombies just weren't enough for you. That's what we got for the regular ass news. Let's talk now about our suggestion this week. I think I suggest this every year round about Halloween, but it's super appropriate because it's titled The Long Halloween. If you've never read the Batman book classic, The Long Halloween, written by Jeff Loeb, art by Tim Sale, the legendary Batman duo, then you absolutely must find a way to get your grubby little mitts on a copy of this book, because this has laid the foundation in a lot of ways for what we know of the modern Batman. It also heavily influenced the Dark Knight movies from Christopher Nolan and Matt Reeves's Batman universe, the alternate universe thing going on with the DCU right now. It is absolutely a masterclass in noir storytelling, even if it is one of the more flawed detective books that we've ever gotten from DC. Either way, it is a classic on multiple levels. It is absolutely worth your time to read, and it is your suggestion for the week. You know, TV shows are kind of like a friend that you had a long time ago. He's super cool for the first few years, but then, I don't know, he makes some weird life decisions. You kind of stop hanging out quite so much. And then a couple years down the road, you see some social media posts from him. You go, man, what happened to you? Let's talk about TV and streaming shows. Follow-ups and corrections. This is our first of 2 Stranger Things pieces this week. It is the season 5 finale, which is going to be on Netflix on New Year's Eve. In case you forgot, New Year's Eve, approximately 2-hour episode of a TV show launching on New Year's. Who approved that, by the way? You're like, yes, I know it's going to get a lot of views, mostly on New Year's Day when nobody is working, so why not just launch it New Year's Day at like noon or something? But whatever, I digress. We previously got the speculation that they were going to release it into movie theaters, but then we got producer Bella Baharia, I think is how that is pronounced, in Variety tell us, nah, that's not gonna happen. And then we get a new report from Puck newsletter. The 2-Hour Beast is actually going to hit AMC theaters in the US at the very least on the same day that it is going up on Netflix. So New Year's Eve. If we're doing an experiment to see if a TV show, the finale of a massively, massively popular TV show is going to do well in theaters, if we're trying to revive theater, why is New Year's Eve the day that we chose to do this? This makes no sense to me. But continuing on, the volume 1 of season 5 drops November 26th. Volume 2 drops December 25th. And then, like I said, the finale is on New Year's Eve because nothing says holiday cheer like the Upside Down and an apocalypse led by a demon man who, I don't even know. No new trailers to speak of as far as TV goes. This is kind of why we do the the season break here, because things are already in motion. Anything that is going to be exciting doesn't really start to pick up until we get into the springtime. So yeah, anyway, no trailers, I guess, is the long and the short of that. So let's move into some regular ass news. AMC producer Dan McDermott says The Walking Dead could shamble across TV screens, or at least AMC's platforms, for approximately another 15 years. Apparently hitting many more continents, quote unquote, much like the Daryl Dixon series was in France, and then now they're in Spain, I believe. A pan at MIPCon 2025 had him, Scott Gimble, Norman Reedus, and Melissa McBride hyping character development and new plots and new locales. Kind of think of it like DC, Marvel endlessly building their world over and over and over again. Next up, we have more Tales of the Walking Dead universe dropping in 2026. It's another 6-episode season of the anthology series. Daryl's season 3 finale just aired. Season 4, the final season for the Daryl Dixon show, is coming next year. So apparently, if you are really, really into zombie tourism, which honestly, I don't know, I missed Dead City season 2 and I haven't watched any of Daryl yet, season 3, but I'm going to because I love these shows, so it's totally my jam. I just am a little worried by the time we get to Walking Dead Antarctica. Because what's going to happen there? We're still going to have walkers. They're just going to be extra grumpy? Like, what is this? Next, we have Hulu is jumping into the game with some more stuff, even though there are rumors of Hulu's impending demise now that Disney owns the majority of the entirety of the company, I believe. Whatever. Hulu has greenlit a new Prison Break series. It is a reboot from Elgin James, who was the executive producer, possibly showrunner, I don't remember exactly, but executive producer for sure on the Mayans show, the spin-off from the Sons of Anarchy. He did that. So this is basically going to be the same world. It is related to the first Prison Break series, but with an entirely new cast, so no Schofield. Emily Browning is going to be the lead in this one. She plays an ex-military, now corrections officer in America's deadliest penitentiary. And the love story, apparently, is involved here as well. Also on the cast, we have Drake Roger, Lucas Cage, Clayton Cardenas, and executives from the OG, Paul Scheuring, I believe. So really, the way this is, let's just kind of bring this one back a little bit. It's Prison Break, but without the prison. Or the break? Or the brothers. Got it. And then horror fans rejoice because the master himself, John Carpenter, is working on a new anthology series. Details are very, very scarce right now, like exactly what it's going to entail still remains to be seen. There are some reports that it is going to be anthological from season to season, not episode to episode, so there's that. But beyond that, there's very, very little. We don't know what streaming service is going to or anything. However, it is worth noting that John Carpenter doing a TV series of some sort is worthy of praise, so let us rejoice. And then finally, like I said, we have two Stranger Things pieces. This is the second one. It's Finn Wolfhard talking about the finale for the season, equating it to a Game of Thrones-like experience. The 2-hour season finale, apparently at the table read, had the cast bawling out loud. It's going to feature 21 series regulars, that 18-month time jump from season 4 to season 5, wrapping up Vecna, the Mind Flayer, and everything. But in this interview, he also says that he's worried about a Game of Thrones style backlash to the ending as well. So, little tip for you, if you're fretting over a cop-out ending, like Game of Thrones, yeah, maybe just don't do something stupid like Game of Thrones. It's that easy. There's a blueprint for what not to do. Don't do that. It's that simple, honestly. And that brings us to our suggestion this week in TV streaming. It is, in fact, as I've been teasing for the last few weeks, Haunting of Hill House over on Netflix. Don't kill me for the Netflix thing. Mike Flanagan stuff only exists on Netflix right now, so we can't get away from it. But there are ways. Yar? Either way you get your hands on it, it is absolutely a beautiful and terrifying story about a family that is just put through hell. They're forced to face the ghosts of their past, both literal and metaphorical, though it should be noted that this is less about jump scares, which is probably why it is one of the best horror franchises, horror IPs, I guess is more appropriate, to come out in the last 20 years. Easy. Less about the jump scares, like I said, but more about just the creeping, slow-burning churn of sheer dread. It is absolutely a 10 out of 10, especially if you're looking for ghosts that hit harder than poltergeists. That is your suggestion for the week. But there's a great comparison here. Movies, and modern movies, are a lot like political promises. They show you an amazing trailer full of action and hope, and then you pay your money based on that promise, only to then sit through 2 hours of disappointment and betrayal and bad CGI. let's talk about movie news. Follow-ups and corrections. We're going to start with the kind of obvious one. Tron Ares is reportedly going to lose Disney a massive $132 million, which is sure to blow Disney's bottom line and their hopes and dreams, it would seem. Next, in the ever-evolving horror adaptation of now public domain characters, because apparently that was a thing we all had on our bingo cards in 2022. The Steamboat Willie horror adaptation called Screamboat Willie is getting a sequel. This time it's going to feature Minnie Mouse because she too is coming up in to public domain. Honestly, I'm here for it, so long as eventually we get Goofy's Goof Troop Massacre. Following up on the Warner Brothers situation, David Zaslav and company have now officially shot down a second bid for their company from Paramount. Zaslav is holding strong for reasons that maybe are only known to him, but holding strong to something, it would seem. No word yet as to other bids, but it does sound like Netflix is potentially gearing up to actually try to make a bid, being as Paramount has been shut down twice. So we'll keep tabs, we'll report more as things develop, but until then, we're moving on. And then just to round this one out real quick, we have a very, very quick follow-up on the Mortal Kombat 2 movie. The date has moved yet again, but this time it's not in the bad direction, but in the good direction. Not by much, though. It bumped from May 15th of 2026 and is now May 8th of 2026. So about a week. Cool. New trailers this week. We have an actual new trailer for a new movie coming out, and there's two conversations that we have to have about this. First of all, the trailer itself is from the Daily Wire. It's based on the Pendragon Cycle books by Stephen R. Lawhead. The trailer is for the Rise of the Merlin story from those books that I've never read, though I'm vaguely familiar with, and it looks like it's Tolkien-esque, so there's obviously swords and sorcery, but like it's kind of got this epic feel, almost said scope rather, but epic feel that is reminiscent of the Lord of the Rings movies. So looks surprisingly high budget. The kicker here, and the second conversation, if you will, is that this movie is forcing legacy media outlets in the entertainment reporting world. That is everyone pretty much, is forcing these legacy media outlets to report on this story seriously. The Daily Wire's entertainment wing has become so good at what they're doing and so successful that there's no tongue-in-cheek, there's no way to ignore it if you work in legacy media reporting on pop culture. They are now considered a legitimate player in the game. They're making big budget content, and that is a win unto itself. Which then puts us into regular ass news. We have a report on, and I think this actually might have been a follow-up. I just couldn't remember if we had originally talked about it, so I put it in the regular ass news section. But we have Jeremy Strong talking about his approach to playing Mark Zuckerberg in the sequel to The Social Network, which is called The Social Problem? No, what the hell is it called? Did I not put it in the notes? Really? Either way, he's saying that he's not going to elicit anything resembling Jesse Eisenberg's performance from the first movie, with Eisenberg chiming in on this, joking that he would be the understudy, but he, understands the difference in direction. Instead, we have Strong reporting that he's going to be tuning into the quote-unquote reckoning vibe that Sorkin put into the script. We don't have a confirmation yet if David Fincher is going to be back to direct. Matter of fact, I think I even saw one source report that not only is Sorkin written the movie, but he's also, at least at the moment, set to direct, which is interesting. And then our only other piece for movie regular news this week has to do with, again, technically a follow-up, so maybe we didn't technically have any regular ass news this week, but it is Elizabeth Olsen talking about the Scarlet Witch again. In a recent interview, Olsen said that she would, quote, jump at the chance to play the Scarlet Witch again, which is funny because I seem to remember her saying not too long ago that she wanted to distance herself from the role in order to do other things. I guess those other things didn't quite pay the Marvel levels of money. But MCU fans are totally eating it up. There's a bunch of random Wanda posts fueling comeback on X these days, so there are plenty of rumors swirling that it's going to happen, though I think many of them seem to be unsubstantiated, though being as she never fully left the rumor mill as far as whether or not the Scarlet Witch is going to be in the new Avengers movies, it would seem that maybe she was playing coy previously, but this is totally speculative on my part. Seems that she might have been playing coy previously in order to stage some sort of big comeback that was entirely fake anyway. All of that being said, let's talk about our suggestion this week. This week's suggestion, you really need to go check out Clive Barker's Nightbreed. Very specifically, the director's cut of Nightbreed, because that is the restored vision from Clive Barker himself, and the theatrical cut is a bit of an abomination that was kind of hacked into pieces by the studio into incoherence. If you watch the studio cut, it's really hard to follow. And if you don't really know what Nightbreed's about, it's kind of difficult to really lay into exactly what's going on in this movie in any sort of abbreviated way. So let's just put it at the genre of horror fantasy, modern horror fantasy, because it takes place in the 90s when it was made, but still modern. And it's kind of great if you're into dark horror fantasy stuff. So that is your suggestion for the week, the classic nightmare fuel of Nightbreed. All right, nerds, hold that thought 1 second. Are you tired of drinking energy drinks that kind of taste like a chemical spill at the gas station? That's why I have started drinking Dubby. I know somebody questioned recently in one of the comments sections, oh yeah, like you actually drink that stuff. No, legitimately, I do. I drink it every day. I enjoy it too because it is fairly clean energy. I mean, it's still caffeine, but still clean energy because there's no sugar, which means no sugar crash. The Tiger's Blood flavor is kind of my new go-to. It's freaking amazing. Strawberry, watermelon, coconut. Yes, please. If you want to see what the hell I'm talking about, go to Dubby, use code GenerallyNerdy at checkout, get 10% off of everything in your cart, and stop drinking garbage.
Maybe. It's classified.
And then that puts us into the rumor mill. Rumor mill is kind of the best part of being a nerd, I think. It's where you get to play make-believe with multi-billion-dollar corporations. It's kind of like fantasy football, but with a lot less concussions and a lot more spandex. So this is what we got for rumor mill this week, nerds. Confirmations, refutations, we actually have one of each. I think that's only in technicality though. I think we'll get into it. So the first one is we gotta pour one out for the homie because it would seem that Charlie Cox has totally shot down all of our hopes and dreams for a Daredevil Spider-Man movie to happen, as he has said that he is not going to be in Spider-Man Brand New Day. Now, is he lying? Well, it wouldn't be the first time that Marvel paid an actor to lie to us. So it's possible. However, his denial seems very firm, and he seems to be, at the very least, trying to convince us that him being in London at the same time they're filming Spider-Man is purely coincidental, and he's filming something else. Primarily, his superhero brain is focused on the next season of Daredevil and not doing cameos in these other projects. So, as it stands right now, we're going to mark this rumor disappointingly, but somehow thoroughly debunked. And then in the confirmation column, which again, maybe a little bit, in the confirmation column, we have James Gunn kind of confirming that the DCU is not safe if Warner Brothers gets bought out. In a recent interview with the Boba Talks podcast, he hit a really hard hesitation and almost let some information slip, laughing off whether or not he'll be sticking around post Warner Brothers sale. Insiders are definitely saying that if Warner Brothers gets bought out, Gunn is going to be the first one on the chopping block, and kind of everything associated with him will just fall off, including the DCU. If Paramount or whoever does, then the Chapter 1 of Gods and Monsters, the reboot that is going on, is going to be dead. It seems that some other rumor mongers in this vein are reporting that the Superman family films, once we have the next one, which is supposed to be Supergirl, if it does poorly, then that is a sure sign that Gunn is going to be getting the axe. So, kind of confirmed. Then we have a new source for an old rumor, the old rumor being Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk in Spider-Man Brand New Day. We have recently seen, and you're hopefully seeing on your screen, some still images that were leaked from set showing Mark Ruffalo bruised up as Bruce Banner. Now, the fact that he is not in any sort of motion capture getup would imply that he is going to be live action, not motion captured with some sort of bruising. Now that's significant because if you know the character from the comic books, you know that in order to save Bruce, Hulk takes over whenever there's any sort of imminent danger or threat of pain or issue to the body of Bruce Banner, because Hulk has a healing factor that kind of goes crazy whenever Bruce gets hurt. This seems to imply that we are going to be getting Savage Hulk as the antagonist in Brand New Day, but not like we thought we were going to when the rumor originally leaked out. It would seem that with Bruce Banner having physical bruises on his being, that would seem to imply that Bruce and Hulk are going to split physical beings from one another. So the big green monster is going to go crazy because he's no longer attached to Bruce Banner, which has happened in the comics and would honestly be pretty dang fan servicey if they did it in the movies. This honestly could be very interesting. We will definitely be keeping tabs here. So now let's get into the new rumors, shall we? That's why you're all here anyway. This is the rumor mill, for crying out loud. First up, we have a new rumor that suggests that the villain for the Batman 2, Matt Reeves' next movie, the sequel to the original Robert Pattinson Batman movie from 2019, I believe, is going to in fact be none other than the master manipulator himself, Hugo Strange. There's really not a bunch to go on here other than the validity of the leaker, so that's fairly good. We're going to say about 75%, because Hugo Strange, oddly enough, I think fits super well in the Reeves verse, so it kind of makes a lot of sense. Then we have a video game rumor that is Resident Evil 0 is going to be the next Capcom Resident Evil reboot. This one goes a step further, though, that says not only are we going to get a proper reboot of the story, but we're also going to get an expanded story as well, which is cool because if I remember correctly, the development for Resident Evil 0, they were forced to cut the story in order for time. So there's a lot to do there that could theoretically give us the complete story we were supposed to get back in the day. The rumor continues on to specifically say that a 2028 release window is what is to be expected. Video game rumors often are correct because I don't have bad sources for that one. Mostly because I think a lot of the gaming developers themselves leak out the information themselves in order to build hype for their projects. So that's kind of why the rumors for gaming usually pan out. So we're gonna say this one's about 80% likely because we know they're on a reboot kick, or a remake kick, I guess, for their Resident Evil games. We also know that in the storyline, Resident Evil 0 makes sense as far as the development goes there too. So yeah, that's Then we have 2 Star Wars rumors. One of them very specific to do with Mandalorian and Grogu, the movie. We have a new report from a reportedly quality source, though I don't know explicitly what else this source has released previously. I'm just kind of going on the word of others who have, leaked information from this source that has panned out. I just don't know specifically what it is, but we have rumor that in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie that we are going to be getting approximately 10 minutes of a helmetless Pedro Pascal as Din Djarin. After the backlash of his FaceTime that we got previously in previous seasons of Mandalorian and Grogu, it seems kind of unlikely, but also kind of seems like something Pedro would want to do, considering he's the Hollywood it boy right now. So there's a fair amount on both sides of this one. We're gonna say 50% and split the difference. And then our other Star Wars rumor is a little bit more esoteric in nature, in that it has recently come out, and there's a little bit of hard evidence to back this up, but it has recently come out that a lot of the we'll call it mistrust of Kathleen Kennedy has been misplaced. According to this source, it was Bob Iger who was to blame for a lot of, not all, but a lot of the issues that the community has had with the state of Star Wars and how it got there. In a recent interview, Adam Driver said that it was explicitly Bob Iger and the Disney machine at large, and not Kathleen Kennedy, who shot down his idea for a Kylo Ren solo movie. This source that used that as their concrete evidence then goes on to say that the Mandalorian and Grogu pivot to a movie instead of another season. We have the Solo issues, the Rise of Skywalker debacle. All of these things can all be traced down to Bob Iger and a little bit of Bob Chapek, but mostly Bob Iger, his issues with George Lucas. Now again, Kathleen Kennedy is not 100% blameless in this situation. See previously referenced "the Force is female" nonsense, but the rumor reports that by and large, again, not exclusively, but by and large, she was scapegoated by a meddling CEO. So, being as there is no real way for us to substantiate this, it's kind of hard to go one way or the other, but I feel like the Adam Driver interview recently does do a little bit to tip the scales, so we're going to say 60% likely on this one. Now let's talk about speculation. This is my personal speculation on a couple of these stories that we've talked about previously. First up, related to Spider-Man Brand New Day, we also have leaked images of Sadie Sink. There have been plenty of theories as to who exactly she's going to be playing in Spider-Man Brand New Day. I'm pretty sure I'm coming around to the idea with these leaked images that she is going to be Mary Jane Watson, in fact, but it is going to be Mary Jane from an alternate universe, hence why we don't see a costume. She's bundled up in a coat on set because they don't want to reveal her costume because it's going to be some sort of Spider-Man variant, I'm sure. And then my other piece of speculation, no ridiculous speculation this week, no made up story, but my other piece of speculation this week is the Zack Snyder stuff that's been going crazy all over the internet, all over social media and whatnot, the last few days. A lot of people are saying it's because Zack Snyder wants back into the MC or to the DCU, wants to come back and direct. What was it that reported in the rumor mill previously? Dark Knight. He wants to do a live-action Dark Knight adaptation, is the rumor. After having actually looked at his social media posts, I really think that this is just nonsense. This is just him being nostalgic, waxing poetic on a time gone by. This is him and his wishful thinking of the things that could have been, not wishful thinking for the things he wants to be. So yeah, I think this is just him being happy he did what he did and reminiscing on that, and that's about it. So that is what we have for our Rumor Mill Nerds. That is basically everything except for our housekeeping. So housekeeping this week is interesting because, as I previously noted, next week not going to be doing a regular episode, potentially just going to be doing a reaction video of some sort. Maybe more likely we'll do a live recorded video where I just cycle through, I basically do the research and the conversation all at the same time, much like the live shows, just without actually going live, because I don't know if I'll have time to go live at any sort of relevant time next week, but that would be our last regularly scheduled week. There might be another week, the first week of November, where I can make another episode happen, but by and large, I think we're going to start with live shows the first week of November. And then the last week of November, we're going to have another blackout because I will be turning older. So they're not going to work on the week of my birthday. So we can count that one out, but then it'll be live shows and up until the end of January. So that is where we are at. That is all of the news that is fit to print, or, just yell at a camera by myself for an hour and a half once a week. Either way, I appreciate your faces, nerds. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share the show with everyone, all of those things, and come back next week when we have some sort of entertaining nerd content for you, and then live shows after that. So appreciate your faces, nerds. We'll see you in the next one. Before we go, always remember that if it is generally nerdy, it's probably here.